Good morning, little grapes of wrath. We're going to take a trip to Wrath and talk about Grevin, Predator Captain. Grevin Ilvek, a human warrior captain of the skyship Predator. Grevin was a pivotal character in the Weatherlight saga, one of Magic's best storylines. The Magic the Gathering characters of the 90s and early 2000s were a unique product of their time. Swashbuckling Gerard was captain of the Weatherlight, the main hero, and one of the main villains was Grevin Ilvek. When I was a kid, I always wanted to play the villains. All the kids wanted Castle Grayskull. I always wanted Snake Mountain. I thought the villains looked cooler. They had better powers. They had better voices. They were more developed as characters. And if I was writing the story, they would have won every time. Fitted with Phyrexian enhancements and spiky 90s style armor, Grevin Ilvek was kind of a terrifying cyborg berserker. Grevin was forced to be subordinate to Volrath, and he wasn't a great employee all the time. He just wanted to fight everyone and caused a lot of problems in the office. Grevin Ilvek was known to create a hostile work environment, and to keep him in line, Volrath would send waves of pain through Grevin's implanted mimetic spine, courtesy of Phyrexia. Volrath was the big boss, a shape-shifting office nightmare. The forces of Wrath underwent a few leadership challenges, with Krovax taking over for a bit. Ultimately, Grevin was struck down and killed by a minotaur named Tongarth, one of Gerard's besties. Grevin was a tragic character who was always filled with hatred. Grevin was first represented on a card in the original Tempest set. He looks like an American Gladiator mixed with the Cenobite from Hellraiser. He's supposed to be a Phyrexian Frankenstein. Unfortunately, this iteration does not make a particularly compelling commander. Grevin is also featured on an iconic card from Exodus, Hatred. Hatred is on the reserve list. 3 and 2 black, instant. It is an additional cost to cast the spell, pay X life. Target creature gets +X/+0 until the end of turn. And Grevin's known to say, "I will flay the skin from your flesh and the flesh from your bones and scrape your bones dry, and still you will not have suffered enough." That's what he said to Gerard, apparently. That pretty much sums up the philosophy of this deck. We want to target one opponent at a time, utterly annihilate them, even if we have to lose 20-25 life to do it. Fortunately for us, Grevin was given new life and a Rakdos color identity in Commander 2019 with the card Grevin, Predator Captain. Grevin is a 5/5 human warrior for 3, a red and a black, with Menace. Grevin, Predator Captain gets +X/+0, where X is the amount of life you've lost this turn. Whenever Grevin attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you draw cards equal to that creature's power, and you lose life equal to that creature's toughness. The art on this thing is really rad. He has that same fleshy maniac look, but he's ready for action. He's got a more dynamic pose, and his enhancements look more organic. If you check out the background, you can see Volrath and Krovax, Grevin's overlords and tormentors. I think this is a brilliant piece of art by Zach Stella, and I love the art style. This guy took way too much pre-workout and is probably raging on Phyrexian steroids, let's be honest. So what do we want a Grevin deck to do? A commander deck built around this guy can be built pretty cheap. A lot of the key enablers are bad cards in other decks. You don't need a copy of Hatred, but if you have one, it perfectly fits the theme for a commander willing to take out his enemy, even at the cost of his own life. Grevin costs 5 mana, so he wants to come out, preferably have haste, and swing for 21 commander damage. This deck can take people out very quickly, but with Grevin's second ability, we can also keep our hand stocked with goodies to keep the pedal to the metal. Let's take a look at our key strategies. Definitely want a ramp. Definitely want Grevin to have haste. And we want to be able to lose life at will, preferably at instant speed. We also want creatures to sacrifice to a second ability to get card draw. I included a theft sub-theme so we can steal other people's creatures and get them off the board. We also want life gain for the long game, and we want our damage enhancers. This type of aggro suicide deck isn't for everyone. You have to be a bit of a nihilist. You have to be willing to self-destruct to get the game over really quickly. So what ramp is really synergistic with this deck? I mentioned Generator Servant in one of my prior videos. This is a really cool little card. You can tap and sack it to add 2 colorless mana, and if you use that to cast Grevin, he enters with haste. Ebony Fly is a newer mana rock from AFR that can be a creature in a pinch and give Grevin flying. We can sacrifice that for draw if we get desperate as well. I think this is a cool little mana rock. Thought Vessel is a lot cheaper than it used to be, and when we are drawing 20 cards by sacrificing a Malignus or an equally large creature, we want to hang on to those cards. There's an assortment of mana rocks I included in this deck, but we won't belabor the point. You know you want about 10 sources of ramp, especially with our commander costing 5. We talked a little about Generator Servant giving us haste, but what else we got? Bloodsworn Steward is a favorite of mine. It's a beefy flying vampire that pumps Grevin and starts him swinging. He can hold his own too. When you're leaping into battle and kicking butt, it pays also to have high quality boots. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots are 2 cards that keep us fast and furious in this deck. I have a copy of Fervor, a classic enchantment that grants my creatures haste. We also want to include Anger. Anger is a creature that can be sacked to Grevin. Then we get him into the graveyard, or we can discard him in some way. Listen, man, I don't want that new school Anger. I want that old Anger. The weird little thick guy with the swizzle stick. Yeah, if I look like that, I'd be angry too. I also included Flamekin Village, which can be used in a pinch. Chainer is an interesting addition, the new Chainer. Casting from the command zone isn't from our hand, so it's a haste enabler for our commander. Chainer's a really good alternate commander as well, who can recur our threats for a resilient deck. Alright, now we get into the interesting stuff. Grevin wants us to lose life. That's part of the tension of the deck, and we're giving him haste. So we want to convert that into 21 commander damage the turn he comes down. We have a couple ways to do this. So Immolating Soul Eater is kind of a bad card by itself. In this deck, it's absolute death for our opponent. Blood Celebrant is a weird old mana filtering card, but we can use 1 black mana to make Grevin a 21/5. Again, Molten Steel Dragon's kind of a mediocre dragon, but has broken Phyrexian mana pump. Wall of Blood makes absolutely no sense besides being gross. There's no reason you couldn't just walk through a wall of blood. It's liquid. Keep in mind, all of these activated abilities can be put on the stack at instant speed. You can respond to declaring blockers, and if they let Grevin through, he can be powered up right before assigning damage. Vilus, Broker of Blood, is a fantastic draw engine and can lose us life as well. 8 mana is a ton, but we aren't playing EDH. It's okay to top out at 8 mana. Phyrexian Delver is a black staple that leads us into life loss and recurs one of our big threats. I have this thing in so many decks. Phyrexian Purge is a removal spell that can get rid of blockers while growing our commander. Unspeakable Symbol is a key enchantment that lets us lose life and permanently grow Grevin with counters. I have no idea what's going on in the art with this card. It's just really weird looking. Bola Citadel is an incredibly powerful card. I've won games with this just popping spell after spell out. Command the Dreadhorde is great later in the game to stack our board with creatures and lose a ton of life. Dire Fleet Ravager. I love everything about this card. He's an orc pirate wizard, the only one in the game. He's jacked. He's got plague fists. He's carrying a big iron ball on a chain. This guy is wielding mystical death plague smoke in his fists, but still brings a ball and chain, which by all accounts of medieval weaponsmiths was more dangerous to the wielder than it was to the enemy. He comes out and says, "Alright everybody, lose 13 life." Treasonous Ogre is a great card in this deck. He can power out our spells and power up our commander. Not much to say here. It's a great mana source that leads into life loss. Crick, Son of Yawgmoth, joins the Bald Guy crew and can get really big. He totally enables Grevin. These two are pre-com buddies too. He has lifelink to help us recoup some of the life we pay for the Phyrexian mana. Doom Whisperer is such a strange, pushed, useful card. I have this in so many decks. This can help us to lose life and reach key permanents and stack our graveyard. He just wants to give you a fist bump. Blow those hands. Let me give you a hand, brother. We want some creatures we can sacrifice to Grevin for a big card draw. Daring Fiend Bonder is great in this deck, can help us protect Grevin from the graveyard, and on sacrifice draws us 5 for 1 life. Lightning Skelemental is similar and can hit early to hamper our opponents. I didn't include too many cards like this, but opted to include 2 that have other utility. Cards like Arc Runner, Ball Lightning look good on paper, but don't really do anything if Grevin is stuck in the command zone. So what's better than sacrificing our creatures for card draw? Sacrificing our opponent's creatures. I opted for a theft sub-theme because we have sacrifice outlet in the command zone. Stealing creatures helps clear the way for our menacing commander. Captivating Crew is repeatable but very mana intensive. Zealous Conscripts, another old standby, can steal any permanent that hampers our Suicide Voltron strategy. Mop Rule can get us the biggest creatures on the battlefield or the smallest creatures on the battlefield temporarily, and can be a real swing if someone has a huge board. Active Aggression lets us pay Phyrexian mana, which fits our life loss theme, and gets us an opponent's creature, which fits our theft theme. I find the art on this thing pretty menacing. Urbrass is back there creeping, and this elephant is fully ready to commit war crimes, get cancelled. Grab the Reins is a weird, mana-hungry card, but versatility comes with a cost, I guess. We can pump Grevin or one of our pumpable creatures, then fling them, or we can steal our opponent's creature, sacrifice it to Grevin, or both of these because it has Entwine. Interesting card. Molten Primordial, big, splashy, swingy theft enabler that also has haste. I also put in Sepulchral Primordial. This is great late game after a few board wipes. I've routinely ended games having 1 or 2 life left at the end with Grevin, but if the game goes longer, we need a little life gain so we don't get taken out by the odd bird or token. This is the downside to our commander. It's very vulnerable. We need cards like Exsanguinate, which gives us a big transfusion, even if we only pump 6 or 7 mana into it. One of the best cards in this deck is Essence Harvest. This is the great thing about Grevin. Some highly synergistic cards are only about 15 cents or so. We also have Rite of Consumption, which is a black fling with life gain as a good finisher. These are both sorcery speed. Bloodchin Fanatic has 1 and a black mana. Sacrifice another warrior creature. Target player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. Grevin is a warrior, and this can be used at instant speed. This is an under-the-radar card that probably only fits in a Grevin deck. Grey Merchant is in pretty much all my 2-color black decks. This guy just tenders so much value and is probably tired from carrying all these games of Commander. Noxious Gearhulk has a lot of utility in this deck, acting as both a removal spell and a lot of life gain. He's also a 5/4 with Menace. Whip of Erebos is a great early play. If it isn't removed, then whatever life you put into getting Grevin will likely be refunded, as he now has lifelink. We can also get back a creature to sacrifice for card draw from our yard. Shadow Spear, man, what can I say? This card released and I bought a few for $5 or so. And I got a couple of collections that I bought. I knew this was going to be a Commander staple, and it's $22 at the time of this recording. So much utility in this card. If you don't have one of these, Loxodon Warhammer can sub in a budget deck. Basilisk Collar is also very cheap right now. It's about $2. There's really no substitute for Shadow Spear, and it also helps us to be able to target with our targeted removal some of the creatures across the field who have Hexproof or Shroud. This deck needs big damage. Sometimes Grevin gets popped and we can't keep playing him from the command zone because he's going to cost 9 or 11 or whatever. Malignus is a good substitute commander. You can fling him or sacrifice to draw 20 cards. Obosh the Prey Piercer cares about odd converted mana cost, and that's a lot of our damage dealers. Archetype of Aggression gives our creatures trample and is a cool little enchantment that can also be sacrificed for cards if we need to. Neheb, Dreadhorde Champion, is a 4 mana value bomb that has a bunch of text. He has trample. Whenever Neheb Dreadhorde Champion deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you may discard any number of cards. If you do, draw that many cards and add that much red mana. Until the end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So I put this in just because it's a interesting card. It's a threat, so our opponents basically have to remove it, or we're going to get a lot of value out of it. Combat Celebrant. This guy got expensive too. He can net us an extra combat step, and he can also be sacrificed to Grevin on the second combat for 4 cards and 1 life. Really good value. I also run a copy of Chandra's Ignition. This can pump out 60 damage around the table pretty easily. Pump Grevin, cast it, then finish any stragglers with combat. We also have Soul's Fire and Fling. These cards can capitalize on Grevin's often massive power. I wish there were more effects like this. These cards are really good in this deck. Vorak Battlehorns costs 2 and reads, equipped creature has trample and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Has equip 1. So Grevin can't be blocked. Good game, everybody. Good game. One of the collections I bought during the madness of 2020 had a copy of Shizo Death's Storehouse. This card is a must run if you have one. It makes Grevin, who already has Menace, very tricky to block. I have a ton of fun with this deck. Just like the character himself, you have to be willing to get damage to do damage. Grevin throws himself into mortal combat with insane rage, terrible purpose, and just total hatred. People fear this deck because you can go from 40 life with a good board state to folding your laundry in spectator mode. Thanks for watching. I'm going to ask you to gently kiss the like and subscribe buttons, and this is going to be Nikki G from Better Commander, signing off.